This month's Knife Care Masterclass is going to be jam-packed with useful information. This month we are talking about all of the tools you will need and the oils you will need to maintain your knives for a lifetime. There's a lot of what to get in here, and there's also some of what to avoid. I have a whole bunch of tools here. I'm going to switch the camera angle so we can look at them all up close. We'll talk about all of them and what ones you're going to want and need to maintain your knives. Right off the bat, one of the most important and most overlooked tools in the knife enthusiast's arsenal is the magnetic bowl. So what this is a bowl that you can drop all your little screws and little parts in, and they won't fall out and roll away on you when you jostle them around. So super, super important. This one is Park Tool. You can get these at Harbor Freight. They're just as good. No excuse not to have one of these, but this is going to save you so much frustration and so much hunting for knife parts that there's no reason not to have one. They're only a few dollars. Second is one of the most important things you're going to use a lot, and that is a good nut driver. I really like this one by Irwin. Again, check the description if you want to be able to find all these things. I'm going to post information, where to get them, etc. I like this one because it's wider this way than most nut drivers, which means I can really get a good grip on it. And if there's a bolt that's frozen, I can push down on it hard and I can create a lot of twisting torque because it's wider in diameter. I also like that it's short because it's portable. It does have storage for bits in the back. I like that because if I travel, I don't want to have to pack them separately. So that is really nice. This is my favorite one of those. You'll notice I have two of these. I have a nice one and I have a cheap one, and I'll explain why, because you do need two of these. The reason that you need two nut drivers is that some knives have a Torx screw on both sides and they're not keyed. So the only way to get this screw out, the pivot bolt out, is if you have nut drivers that go in both sides, and you're going to use your inexpensive one to hold the pivot bolt still, and you're going to use your expensive one with a good bit to put the torque on it and undo the bolt from the other side. So that is why you need two of them. They don't both have to be expensive. The one that you're holding in place generally doesn't do that much twisting force. The one that you're twisting with is going to do a lot more twisting force. So again, that's why you need two nut drivers and not just one. Let's talk about bits. So getting quality bits is extremely important, especially with these little T6s. So these little T6s are notorious for the bolts rounding off. They're notorious for these bits rounding off and stripping. And I went through a ton of these before I discovered a secret. And the secret is to always buy, especially in the little T6s, impact rated bits. The impact rated ones are made from a much more durable, tough tool steel, and they just last a whole lot longer. Since I started buying impact rated ones, I think I bought a set of 25 of these like 7 years ago. I don't think I've stripped a single one since I started buying the impact rated ones. So get yourself a good nut driver, get yourself some good impact rated bits. You're going to need T6, you're going to need T8, you're going to need T10 for most pocket knives. Those are the three that you'll need the most. Occasionally, I've got one or two knives that take a T15. I have exactly one knife that takes a T20, and I have a couple Microtech knives that take T20s. Oh, sorry, there's one knife I have the T15, and a couple of Microtechs take T20s now, like the Amphibian. So those are the bits you're going to need. Some knives come with them. Again, I don't necessarily recommend relying on the ones that come with them. I recommend the impact rated, especially T6s. Next is, obviously, you're going to need a pair of small pliers. You will need a small screwdriver for prying. Mostly this comes with knives that have multiple layers like this. And you're going to come to a point where you take out all the bolts and everything is still stuck from corrosion or whatever. And you're just going to need to get in there and gently work them loose to pry them open. Small screwdriver is still a necessity. Another really useful tool that I use a lot is these picks. Again, I'll show you where to get these, but these come in a straight option. They come in a 90-degree option. They have like a little spiral one. Super useful for getting down into places, pulling things different directions, sliding washers or bearings that are stuck down in out of the knife without disassembling the whole thing. Super useful little tool here. One of my absolute favorite tools that I want to spend a little time on is also a bamboo skewer. So if you need to clean a knife and you don't want to scratch it. So let's take a look at something like this. This is an out the front knife with a very machined blade. And you can see some places in here, there's a little bit of dirt that's way down in around the edge there. And I can get in here with this bamboo skewer and I can scrape it out. There's some right along the back here. And I can scrape that out and I can put as much pressure as I need without scratching the blade finish. So this is really useful for cleaning out any caked on gunk. You can use the back end for cleaning flat surfaces. You can use the pointy end for getting down in tight places and scraping things out. One of the most beneficial things for a bamboo skewer though, and you can buy these anywhere, you can buy them at Kroger. I recommend the thicker ones for reasons that you're about to see. One of the most useful uses of this though is putting the blade back in an axis lock system like a Benchmade. So let's say I want to get my washers back in, and I got to get two washers and a blade all stacked together and all lined up the same. That is really difficult. So what I will generally do with something like that is I'll put my first washer in and I'll slide it into place with the bamboo skewer, and then I'm going to put the skewer up from the back. And because that skewer is tapered, I have now centered that washer over the hole in the knife. And now I can take that back out almost all the way, but still keeping the tip caught on the washer on the inside. And then I can slip my blade over top of that. So now I've got the washer and the blade in there. And then I can push that back in, and now I've got the washer and the blade centered over the hole. And now I can do my second washer on top. Same thing, start it in like this. And then I can pull the skewer out a little bit at a time, slide that third washer down in, and then I've got all three once I get it centered. Pull it into place like so. And then I can push this down in and I can center all three of those things inside that hole. And then all I have to do is slide the pivot bolt back into the inside. So this bamboo skewer is one of the most useful tools you're going to have for reassembling, especially axis lock type knives. Next, let's talk about thread lockers. So most knives are going to be put back together on pivot bolts and on pocket clip bolts at least with a little bit of blue thread locker. This does two things. It keeps the bolt from rusting because it keeps oxygen and moisture away from the threads, and it keeps it from loosening on its own. Some people don't like to use this on smaller bolts like standoffs and like pocket clips because sometimes you will get enough corrosion or enough tension rather from the thread locker to lock those bolts in. And that can be a problem. You can strip bolts. If you are afraid of that, the secret is Loctite Triple 2. This is low strength thread locker. This is not a regular Loctite. This is not Loctite 271, the really hard stuff. This is designed for little tiny bolts that you know you're going to have to loosen and tighten frequently. Extremely useful. A little dab of this on, you can see low strength thread locker. A little bit of dab of this on your pivot bolts and your pocket clip bolts will keep them in without them locking in place, and you can still very easily get them out. It's just enough to keep them snug. This is a lifesaver. I use it all the time. You can see I got the big bottle. All right, that is pretty much all the tools that I use for disassembling and reassembling knives. Now I want to talk about how I oil my knives. So oil is extremely important for preventing rust, especially on high carbon steel knives or Damascus knives. Not all oils are created equal. So the best knife oils are something called Choji. Choji is a Japanese invention. It is a blend of mineral oil, usually, and various plant oils that is lower viscosity and it's a little stickier. And what it does is it gets down into all the pores of the metal. So you can put this on, wipe it off, have an almost dry blade, and it's still protected from corrosion. This is one way that the Japanese were able to, make katanas and preserve them for hundreds of years without them rusting. It's great for knives too. I use this for knives. It's great for firearms. It's great for swords. And not all of them are created equal. So I've used several, and the one that works the best is this one. This is Badger's Sword Oil. It is made by Badger Blades, badgerblades.com. I will put a link for this down in the description. It smells great, and this is the best at preventing rust that I have ever used. Pretty much none of my knives ever rust anymore because I use this on them all the time. It comes in this sprayer bottle. If you use this spritzer bottle, you will go through it pretty quickly. I was going through a bottle once every couple months when I use this on everything that I work on. And that's when I discovered these little well-sealed needle tip bottles. If you pour one bottle of this into these, a bottle like this, even for somebody like me who has way too many knives and uses this oil for everything, this will make it last 3 or 4 times longer. A bottle like this will last me a year or more now, even though I have all these knives, because I put it in these little bottles. Again, link for these down in the description below. But definitely get some of these. This is the best type. I'll put these specific ones. There are other ones that leak. These ones do not leak. So much better solution there. The last tool that I only use on a rare occasion is this one. This is a wider ice pick. I usually use this basically for the same things I would use the bamboo skewer with, centering round items and stuff in pivot holes. It's just a little bit bigger, which is why I have this. Again, I don't necessarily use it as much, but I do have it and I do need it occasionally. The last thing I want to talk about is a different type of oil for knives. Specifically, we're talking about kitchen knives here. And this is important, especially for people who have food sensitivities. Choji is often made with different types of spice oils like clove oil or plant oils. So if you have food allergies, most Choji recipes are closely guarded secrets and they're not going to tell you exactly what's in them. So while Choji is great for pocket knives or swords or fixed blade knives, you might not want to use it on your kitchen knives. Kitchen knives are generally best oiled just with a little bit of mineral oil, the same stuff that you would use on your cutting boards. You can get it at Kroger, you can get it at pharmacy. It's just a food grade inert oil that won't go rancid. So use that on your kitchen knives. Over to you guys. If you like this, please let me know if there are any other tools or things you want me to review or check out or demonstrate the use of in a knife care masterclass. Thank you for watching and thank you for your membership.